Welcome back to another episode of Upon Request, the podcast where you get to be in conversation with folks who are trying to live out their values in an imperfect world of inequity and oppression. Today, we're joined by my fellow co host, Eric Johnson, Carolina Santa Maria, and myself, Mikel Lejean, and my bestie, the homie from high school, Marven Hyppolite. Marvin's worked as a staffer for a congressional rep, fighting for housing justice, and ran for local elected office in Lynn, Massachusetts, from where we hail. We can talk more about that if we want to. We can also not talk about it. It's all good. Yeah, Marvin, thank you so much for joining the podcast. I feel like I get to talk to you all the time, so this is going to be really fun for listeners to get to talk to you as well, or at least listen to you. Is there anything else that you want folks to know about who you are, what you represent, what moves you through this life?
Well, I think you pretty much said everything that I'm about. Right now, I'm getting into some farming, starting a little co-op in Lynn. Uh, but other than that, yeah, just uh, food justice, housing justice, electoral politics. That's my game.
Nice. Well, thank you again for joining us. And before we dive into some of the more, conversational interviewee parts of the podcast, for folks that are listening, this episode was spurred one because I really appreciate talking to Marvin about many things in this world. I think you know, to be friends with someone for almost a decade now, well, actually over a
Yeah,
decade,
over,
Yeah.
over, yeah,
over a
Jesus.
decade. We're getting old.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know.
you traverse a lot of, your own growing and maturing, and I feel like the conversations we were probably having when we were 16 and 17, I probably wouldn't want to talk about on this podcast. And even like just a few years ago, I feel like we were going through our own trying to figure out, how to exist in this world and being folks that are from immigrant backgrounds and growing up with like basically single parent households sometimes, having younger
Yeah.
siblings, just like a lot that overlap that myself and Marvin and also our group of friends have. So I'm excited to just get your perspective on things. And then we also wanted someone from Haiti who's been there recently, to share more about the situation in Haiti. I think most importantly, we didn't want a whitewashed version that removed the legacy of colonization, colonialism, slavery, disenfranchisement. You know, we wanted something that centered liberation politics and also recognized that there's a really resilient spirit of Haitian people that I think does not get talked about enough. So, um, thank you for being that person to jump in and talk about that, Marv. And also, as someone who's been to Haiti, I can just speak firsthand. It is a beautiful country, and if only things were better for the Haitian people, I think it would be better for all of us because we would get to be in relationship with a really beautiful country with a rich history. So, as this season has been going on, we've gotten the honor to talk about all of the conflicts and real deep um, conversation and real thoughtful, intentional conversation. And Haiti, like Sudan, like Congo, like Palestine, they're all very interconnected by a very simple thread: capitalism and neocolonization. So, without further ado, we're in the thick of it, y'all. We're in the convo. So, Marvin, I think my first question is what has it been like as someone from the diaspora over the years? Maybe you can speak to what it's been like developing your own consciousness, or maybe you can just talk about what it's been like being kind of on the outside looking in for most of your life. Yeah, what does that question kind of arise for you?
Uh, well, I think being Haitian American over the years, it's just been ups and downs. So I was born in the U.S., but Creole is my first language. So I spent my much of my early childhood in Haiti, and so I had like this weird experience where I'm I'm American, but I had the immigrant experience. I went through ESL. I went through the phase when it wasn't cool to be Haitian. You were kind of uh, hiding from bullies because they were going to say mean things, and then later on it sort of changed because I think a lot of us really started to look back and look at our history and really build a sense of pride around that. Uh, but for the most part, it's just been really frustrating to watch Haiti be in the situation that it's in and feeling somewhat helpless. But
Mm.
that would be on the negative side. But on the positive side, there's so much community, there's so much youth and enthusiasm, and I mean, we can only go up from here. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Really appreciate it. And then the one more question, just kind of to ground us before like opening it up for Eric and Kato is what's important about Haiti for you, and why is it important to all of us?
I mean, for me, like you said, Haiti is freaking beautiful. It is gorgeous. And I do not want to be here in the snow all the time with these ugly,
Really?
brutalist buildings. I want to be in nature. I want to be in the mountains. Haiti is home. Haiti is home. And it's the community there, the memories, that's for me. But for everyone else, for what it means for the world, and it's particularly for our region. I know you and I talk about this as well. Uh, Haiti is the laboratory for capitalism in the Western Hemisphere. Everything they get ready to do to everybody else, whether it be Colombia, Venezuela, Trinidad, they practice it on Haiti first. You see how they work to keep the minimum wage in Haiti as low as possible. Well, that hurts workers everywhere because what in Mexico you want to strike? Well, guess what? We'll just go to Haiti. You know,
Yeah.
Colombia you want to strike? Well, we'll just go to Haiti. Uh, None
Mhm.
of us are going to be free until we can do right by Haiti.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, you're speaking to a really like a longer legacy and also like kind of I don't want to use this term and like use it flippantly, but I do mean this from the perspective of the US. It's like it's almost like a safety valve. You know,
Mhm.
whenever things are getting tough, whenever capitalism looks like it's on the slide, I feel like Haiti and the Caribbean is almost used as like a pivot point back to capitalism, right? We saw it with the Cuban Missile Crisis, we saw it with, you know, the invasion of Grenada, like the Caribbean and Latin America have been kind of the place where if that falls, the US's power and like the system of capitalism kind of begins to erode. And so people don't know the extent and the like really forceful kind of response that the US has had in these places. And I think that that point about the low wages in Haiti impacting the rest of like our ability to like advocate for ourselves as countries in the Caribbean and Latin America is like really, really important. So thanks for sharing that.
No
Kato
worries.
or Eric, any thoughts or questions that come to mind for y'all?
Yeah, I'm happy to hop in super quick. Marvin, this is so cool. We've never gotten to have this conversation. You and I have a very similar background. I was also born in the US, but my dad was deported when I was born, and we had to move back to Colombia for 10 years. So I also had that weird, like, I'm a US citizen, but I had the immigrant experience. Everybody from my immediate family is not from, like, wasn't born in the US. It's a funny in-between place to exist in, especially when your country is experiencing what Haiti is currently experiencing. I really appreciate you sharing sort of your initial thoughts, and I'm sure a lot of questions are going to come up, but as I like to call myself like a baby of the like Colombian diaspora. Like as a baby of the diaspora, Marvin, of the Haitian diaspora, how do you feel? I oftentimes felt like Colombia was also like in a civil war for a long time. And it took me actually a really long time to feel like I could speak up on it because I live in this like very particular place of privilege as like, an immigrant from this place in the US. Have you dealt with that? Have you navigated that? And how have you sort of come into your own as it relates to your identity and then also speaking up on issues in Haiti as a person that identifies as Haitian American?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, because that was a similar experience. It took me a while to figure out what was going on. I think like in Latin America, there's a lot of right-wing propaganda that we kind of grow up with, and so we were all, I think, sort of susceptible to that. And I didn't know any better. Um, but it wasn't until I think later on in my high school, entering college, kind of reading things that I wasn't able to read in school, that really
Mm,
kind of opened my eyes, and uh, having gone back to visit my families, seeing how privileged I really am, I felt
mm,
like it feels like a responsibility. Like it's
mm,
not even a question. It is my duty. It feels like to speak up because we can send money and help them feed themselves, but it doesn't get at the root of the issue, which is that the United States and Canada and France just don't want to let us breathe. And
oof.
the only people who can do that is the diaspora. We live in the belly of the beast. The Haitians do not. So it really is us up to us, and that's how.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, yeah, that's so I feel a lot of resonance in that. Um, yeah, and Latin America is an extremely, which actually brings me to the next question before we open it up to see, Eric, if you also have any. But speaking of sort of, yeah, I'm trying to think of a way to pose the question, but um in the current sort of existence of what is going on in Haiti, and like as you said, I feel like, yeah, as the diaspora, sometimes it feels like almost this like, do I can't like I can't hold my identity while at the same time not speaking up for my people. And you said something about Latin America being really right wing, and how Haiti usually is the first place where a lot of these sort of different tactics are tested. Colombian mercenaries were part of the killing of the was it President does I'm so sorry. This is where my schooling has been a really long time ago. Is it I mean, the president or the prime minister?
It was the president.
President.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
He was,
cool.
yeah.
He was murdered, assassinated, and there were a lot of different right-wing paramilitary connections within that assassination. And I think as we're seeing Latin America slip to the left, make this really big change as like our people, as we're all speaking up. I see how Haiti is then being treated in return. It's almost like this, well, everybody is going full right wing. We have to like this needs to stop. We need to step in. And I feel like we're really seeing that sort of play out in Haiti. And I think this right wingness, my question, a very complicated way of asking it is, as you were like coming to terms and realization with like, oh, what I've been like spoon fed is like right wing propaganda, or everything that is sort of, I mean, all the older people I'm in conversation with have this certain opinion, and I'm like, I don't have anywhere else to turn to. So what was that process like, figuring out like, oh my gosh, actually, all of this stuff is really right wing? Because I think we like to, when we're younger, I always like to think, you know, the best intention of what my parents were telling me about the president of Colombia, or like the politics of Colombia, but that like self-discovery, how did that start? Like, what was the moment that you were like, oh, wait a second, this isn't what I actually believe in?
This is gonna sound weird. I don't know if I can. I don't know if you guys will have to edit this off the podcast, but WikiLeaks. That
Oh,
that
that's cool.
because the documents that came out around 2007, 8, and 9, um,
Mm,
I got my hands on those, and just reading them, just kind of
mm,
seeing firsthand what the bureaucrats in DC were saying in their own words versus what we were being spoon-fed. Like, for example, in Haiti, after Duvalier, which was the dictator, and his son, baby dog, you'll often find a lot of older Haitians say, like, oh, we miss those days. Yeah, he was
mm,
brutal, but the trains ran on time, or at least we had trains and the streets were clean. Just terrible things. And then we had President Aristide, who was the first elected president in Haiti for many, many years. He won handedly, despite a lot of CIA meddling.
mm,
Well, the narrative about him is that, well, he disbanded the military, and he laid the foundation for these gangs. And when you look at the WikiLeaks documents paints a completely different story. They were worried that this man was going to start asking for reparations, which he did from France to the amount of $32 billion. He started to talk about redistributing land to the campesinos. How do you? I don't know how you say campesinos in English. Do you
I
know?
Like the
no,
peasant
peasants is like
farmers.
the
Yeah, but it
closest.
is this, yeah, but it's not like I feel like peasant. But anyway, the
We know
farmers,
what you mean. It doesn't
the
encompass
country
it.
folk, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
the country folk, uh,
Yes.
talking about nationalizing industries. Well, they couldn't have that, so they ran this huge propaganda operation to the point now you have a lot of older Haitians who are saying, "Well, this is Aristide's fault. We need this candidate, and well, this candidate is clearly U.S. Washington CIA backed and sometimes often trained." And I think that moment really kind of opened my eyes. And then getting put onto podcasts like the Empire Files, and it was, I mean, from there, I think
Ooh.
you can't turn back.
Yeah, Pandora's box was open. Thank you for
Yeah,
sharing, Marvin. Yeah, I can imagine what reading all of that must have felt like. It's
I
like the
was
moment of
I was
realization.
I was so upset. I was so
Yeah,
angry. Yeah.
Hmm.
totally, totally. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Eric, you have any questions?
Totally. I feel like I have a lot of questions. I feel like I mostly have questions, just in general. One thing that I'm curious about currently, because with any place, and I think the history of Haiti is so, um, like you said, influential on like what has taken place, geopolitics all across the world, quite frankly. Like the Haitian Revolution had impacts that are being felt today. Um, I do wonder about also sometimes being like, to say too focused on history isn't right, but I do wonder about like what's happening right now in terms of like we can always look back on like learning from history and how um, the US and Europe in particular have used their influence is quite one word to say it. Another is sort of exploitation and extortion of um, Latin America and the Caribbean in particular. How that's being played out today, because I think a lot of people think of that as purely a historical phenomena and not something that's currently happening, which I think you were starting to speak to. So I was just wondering if there's more examples you could share of how that sort of neocolonization and imperialism um, is living on and how that's influenced the current state of affairs in Haiti.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And to be honest, that's like where my mind is at right now. Like I'm really proud of Haitian history. I'm really proud of what we've been able to accomplish. But I'm like, honestly, part of me is like, I'm so done with that. I want to move forward. What are we
Sure.
gonna do now?
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
uh, a lot of it's so strange. The Caribbean in general, CARICOM, I feel like that region is so asleep. I'm so disappointed in us. We
Mm.
are so asleep when you look at what's like happening in Yemen right now, for example, with what they're doing for their advocacy for the Palestinian folks. Well, what would happen if the Caribbean
Mm.
was doing that for Haiti? And that's exactly what they're afraid of. There was a Hugo Chavez. He had an oil deal with Haiti. He made right. He built a couple of refineries and it gave billion. I think it was upwards to almost like $5 billion or something like that. It was a loan that he gave to Haiti, and he said, "Well, this is a historical debt that we, the Venezuelan people, have to pay for Haiti." And it
Mm.
was the Petrocaribe deal. Well, that money was really helpful the first year for Haiti. Within the first year of that deal, the city of Port-au-Prince saved $100 million, which was unheard of.
Mm.
The United States got wind of this, of course, and was concerned because it's one thing to have trade deals that are beneficial to countries happening in Latin America, but it's another to have two revolutionary countries do that. Uh, there's a
Mm.
there's there's a
Sure.
there's a big concern
Mhm.
with Washington in regards to Haiti uh, linking up with Venezuela, Cuba, and continuing to spread this anti-imperialist message. a lot of folks in the Caribbean don't understand how truly troublesome we are to Washington.
Yeah.
We feel like we're just small little islands, but we're right there between the Panama Canal. So if we were to make up our own minds, elect our own leaders, would we potentially make deals that don't necessarily favor the United States? We're seeing right now a lot of Caribbean states making deals or looking forward to making deals with China and Russia. Well, the United States needs Haiti to stay the way it is, because from there they can launch their attacks on DR, Jamaica, whoever it may be, but also they can maintain that stranglehold, and they know that uh, if the Haitian people were to do this, that it would essentially be game over for them. It would make it a lot more difficult for them to maintain the control that they have in the region. So where do we move forward? Well, right now, one of the things I'm really trying to do is to get the diaspora more involved politically. It has to be us to put pressure on our government to slow things down. I think it would be unrealistic to say we could stop it, but we can certainly slow it down. And we need to give the Haitian people, buy them enough time to build a government that truly works from them. Um, but yeah, in the modern context, it's not so much that our history represents a lot, but it's the potential we have as Haitian people, but just the Caribbean people in general to really make things difficult for Washington, and they know
Yeah. I think one other thing that I kind of wanted to mention is like the earthquake is not insignificant in terms of the destabilization in Haiti. I feel like even when I was there in 2013, which I think was like the 10-year mark of the earthquake. I mean there was two earthquakes. So like there was one that was really, really devastating too.
it.
And I just remember hearing stories about how US and all these like non-governmental organizations were dispersing aid during that time. And one of the stories that I heard that I think at the time I was just so confused because I'm, junior year of college. I'm in IR, international relations and political science classes. And I'm like, yeah, like international development's the way to go. This is like how we solve all these crises. But, like the UN's doing such good work and like we got to just support these institutions. And I heard that during the earthquake, the epicenter was Port-au-Prince, right? So that means that all the infrastructure got destroyed. And what they sent to Port-au-Prince in terms of aid was on ships, food, perishable food, non-perishable food, all that. That those ships were still off the coast of Port-au-Prince in 2013
Mhm.
because they couldn't get to them because they couldn't build the deck
Right.
that the concrete deck that had just completely collapsed. All the wooden kind of decks that were for porting ships were all destroyed. And then they sent all this other different types of aid on the northern side in OCAP that the folks in OCAP didn't need. And so it was just like this really just the dumbest, most inconsequential response to a very urgent crisis. And I just think about how much is wasted in Haiti. You had the Red Cross, millions of dollars, and all they set up was temporary tents because there is no vision of a liberated, stable, sustainable Haitian economy, right? It's a very much like a nonprofit economy down there. And what that means is that the people of Haiti have to continue suffering for this nonprofit economy to continue like moving with the types of resources that it does. Um, and so that was just like kind of the most harrowing part of being in Haiti at that time was just seeing like 5, 10 years later, this thing that should have been an easy kind of response, right? Get infrastructure down there, then bring aid, make sure it goes to the epicenter. Like none of that actually happened. So I don't know. It was just kind of like a reflection of being there and seeing that firsthand and kind of being in shock. I think it was also my first time of being like, oh, Haitians know what they need. It's all these other people dictating to them what the solution is that is actually messing up how they respond to these like crises.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
What
And
about, yeah,
no, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry. No,
There you go.
I was just saying, just to touch on that, that's on purpose. That's on
Yeah.
purpose to weaken the Haitian institution, make them more dependent on NGOs. And if you're more dependent on NGOs, USAID, well, then they can
Mhm.
dictate how you spend your money. Like Hillary Clinton, I think in her one of her books, touted Haiti as like one of her achievements. Because in terms of like a capitalist heaven, Haiti's your Haiti's your example. Everything privatized, everything. You can do business there pretty easy. But look at it. Look at the state of it.
Hmm.
And that's on purpose.
And
Yeah.
kind of building on Eric's question of like what's happening right now. There's a few questions that I have because right now what's happening is that there's a conflict, right? And just to paint just a quick history, because I don't think that people know enough about Haiti's history, is that Haiti was the first nation to um revolt from colonization. They've been paying that debt ever since. They actually had to pay a debt to France. And then since then, the likes of the US, global north countries have invaded Haiti time and time again, destabilizing the country, even while it served as a haven for enslaved Black people throughout the Caribbean, the US. And so what we've seen over time is that there's been a lot of attempts at neo-colonization, right? Because Haiti was decolonized. And through that, we've also seen really unstable governments and the elections or the placements of folks that actually didn't serve the interest of the Haitian people. And that's how you get Baby Doc, Duvalier, these folks that actually, while they were horrible dictators to Haitian people, they were great business partners for the global north and for capitalists that were looking to make a buck. And I'll talk more about Royal Caribbean in Labadie later, but it gets us to the stage of there's not enough jobs for the Haitian people. Haiti is a very young country. It mirrors a lot of the reason why the Syrian conflict went on, right? A lot of disenfranchised young people with no jobs, no outlooks. It's the same thing in Trinidad when we had the highest murder rate in the world at the time. It was because there was a lot of young disenfranchised people that got caught up in stuff that was more profitable than the regular economy, right? They got caught up in the drug trade, they got caught up in the guns trade, like it's just bad news all around. Um, so what's happening in Haiti right now? What feels really clear about the current situation? What's like the spark points? What are the, you know, people of interest? And then also, to be honest, like what are the things that feel really confusing about the current situation? And this is a question that I've been bringing up because I feel like Sudan and Palestine super clear on. When I keep on looking into Congo, I just feel very confused. Because I
Mhm.
don't know enough about the history, the culture, the
Mm.
the factions, and I feel like I cannot do it justice talking about it. So I'm just wondering, even for you as someone from Haiti, what are the confusing parts about it that feel like we need more attention and more clarity for?
Mm.
So yeah, big question around the current situation.
So right now, Haiti, in terms of having a national government, it doesn't exist. I was there in October and November. Many of the uh, local electeds haven't been paid, and I think now
Mm.
going on 37 months.
Wow.
Yeah. So
What?
there's no trash pickup. There's no nothing, and there haven't been any local elections. We can talk a little bit about later, well, why that happened. So in terms of a national government, nothing exists. Right now, uh, Haitians are really looking towards decentralization. Haiti was a hyper centralized nation. Everything was centralized in Port-au-Prince, kind of made it easier to control the country that way. Well, now there's a need to
Mm.
decentralize. So everything you're seeing on the news is really happening in Port-au-Prince. Everywhere else, for the most part, in a weird way, is having a mini renaissance. A lot of Haitians are really looking towards getting back into agriculture. There was this model down there. It's like when Haiti was rich, it was when we were in agriculture. So there's a lot of
Mm.
discussion about building wealth outside of Port-au-Prince. In Port-au-Prince, Um, there's a Dr. Jemima Pierre. She keeps mentioning this. They're not gangs; they're paramilitary organizations because they're made up of former police and former soldiers who have been disenfranchised. And you also have this weird phenomenon. A lot of folks probably don't realize this, but when the UN was in Haiti, there were a lot of cases of assault, and a lot of those led to a mini population boom. So you had a bunch of young kids who were growing up poor, no resources. And you have also an elite in Haiti, made up mostly of um, sort of descendants of the old French colonizers, but also a large portion of folks who came over from the Middle East who work with the global north to sort of suppress Haiti, almost like what you would see from like a plantation overseer. I hate to use that example, but it really does feel like that. And what you're seeing is they're working on behalf of the global north to destabilize Haiti through the capital. There's a chokehold on the capital. And so folks are really dependent on making their money from Port-au-Prince, but they can't do that now, right? For example, in Jacmel, the farmers from the mountains make this very dangerous journey, paying the paramilitary groups to sell their product in Port-au-Prince. But at times you can't do that. What's unclear to me is, we understand that strategically for them in Washington, it makes sense to have a stranglehold on Haiti because you can, use it as a base to keep everybody in check. But it's the discussions around the land and the minerals. There seems to be this hunger among the capitalists in the United States to take this land, especially the mountain lands around Port-au-Prince. Not sure why. A lot of folks think there might be gold there. I don't doubt that. There might be iridium there. I don't doubt that, but they can get that from anywhere else. Why build the largest U.S. embassy in the Western Hemisphere in Haiti if it's so poor? Why have Coca-Cola buy hectares and hectares of land for sugar? Something is going on there that I'm not really sure. But what's clear to us is that the elites in Haiti, who are mostly white and Middle Eastern, are funding these paramilitary organizations. They have folks here in the United States, particularly in Florida, who send weapons through these. They're not going through shipping containers. They're going through like these little tubs, and they're going through some
Like
of the
those barrels
riverways.
that you send back, like
Yeah, send back
yeah.
home. Yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of
and they're
immigrants
going.
know that story.
Yeah, the blue ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they're sending it through there, and the United States knows. They know. They know that these weapons are coming through from Florida, and there's no there's no one really pushing to stop it, and that part has been sort of confusing to me.
Yeah.
Mm.
Can you also share a little bit more about the assassination of the president? Because I think that
Yeah.
I don't know how that's related, but I know that it is like maybe one of those spark points. Like that is where a lot of the chaos descends. And also like I don't know if that president was a particularly good one for the Haitian people. So I was a little bit confused about why him as a target and why at this moment of all times.
Yeah, and that was, yeah, actually we should have started off with that. That was confusing as hell to us because initially Jovenel Moise was not popular. He was essentially appointed the position by Michel Martelly, who was appointed the position by then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Um,
Mm.
so he was in line. So he's part of the Tête Calais party. It's like skinhead party. It's that's how you roughly translate it, which is so shocking that something like that exists in Haiti. But he was a part of that party, and they were for the most part, a right wing ultra capitalist party. And he started off as such. He was a plantain farmer. That's how he got his start. And he was tapped by Martelly. Somewhere or sometime between his administration, he decided that he wanted to make decisions on his own. And Washington would never accept that. He tried to get in contact with Russia, tried to get in contact with Turkey, was pushing back on the World Health Organization and a couple of other folks who wanted some changes made to Haitian law that would benefit corporations. And to his credit, he seemed to not necessarily to have a definitive stance, but he seemed to entertain these ideas. And a lot of folks in Haiti think that was probably the last straw for Washington. You can't have Turkey, Russia in their backyard. And I think they were really concerned about that. And also the elites too. The elites need the president to play along, and if Jovenel is thinking of redistributing some amount of wealth, they can't have that.
Yeah.
Wild. Also, allegedly,
Yes.
Allegedly.
Washington.
Everything is alleged.
Allegedly.
But I think
My CIA
also,
agent is typing furiously right now.
I was like, gotta get on it. Jeez. But yeah, I think also that connection point between like how the US uses its different mechanisms, allegedly, to destabilize and kind of overthrow governments that it's not in line with. It's like that was probably one of the more disgusting examples of it, and we have just moved past it. And then the worst part of it all is that when people talk about the gangs and the paramilitary right now, there's no allusion to that like as a pretty significant factor. It's always like, oh man, Haiti's just in the gangs, it's so unsafe. And you're like, yeah, but what about the thing that like started this? like what about the thing where that dude got shot in the night and people heard that it was Spanish speaking folks, and like why would Spanish speaking folks get into Haiti without the US, who has major surveillance in Haiti?
Yeah.
Like it's just like none of it made sense, right? And you're like it's kind of like when the fourth wall breaks and you see through it, and like we just all are in shock, I guess. But
Yeah.
but yeah, Eric, or well, I guess Kato, maybe you have some thoughts or some ideas that you were gonna put forward.
No, yeah, I'm just kind of digesting it all. One of the points that you raised, Marvin, that I was like, yeah, why isn't that happening? But I mean, and I know why that's happening. You mentioned how Yemen, like the Houthi rebels are protesting, because of Palestine. And I think so much about how, I mean, Latin America, there could be such a big opportunity to join forces right now in Latin America. And I'm really wondering if a lot of that has to do, and this is why I always Mikhail, you gave a really good synopsis of history, and this is why I always try to tie it a little bit to the history, is Latin America is hella racist and anti-Black. And Haiti has been, so Haiti's located, for those of our listeners that need like a little bit of, geographic support. Haiti is next to the Dominican Republic. Haiti is part of Latin America. I would like the Caribbean part of Latin America. And I remember having like debates in high school or college of like whether Haiti should be considered Latin America or not, even though it's like tied, like literally attached to the Dominican Republic. And I think so much of that, I wonder if that lack of will has to do with the really it's not even complicated, because like Latin America is very uncomplicatedly racist. And we see that a lot play out in what is happening with Haiti. That sparked that thought for me, and I'm like, damn, it would be so badass. I'm like, Petro and Francia Marquez over in Colombia, let's do something.
Yeah.
We had our people there, we had some of our people were those mercenaries that killed the president. So
yeah. I think
yeah.
the other thing that made me think about too, though, is like, I think, Marvin, we used to have this conversation all the time about actually like this idea of the racism and the anti-Blackness and the anti-Haitianness that is in Latin America from governments is actually not something that is historically accurate to how Latin America has been, right? Like the flags of Latin America, I forget, you should actually tell this, like the connection between Haiti and like the Latin American flags.
Yeah. I think so. I think we can tie that. So, Haiti, when it was fighting for its freedom, also supported the liberation efforts of Simon Bolivar and a few others. And so the first time the Venezuelan flag was flown was actually in Jacmel, Haiti. It was actually created and made in Jacmel, Haiti. And so you look at the flags of
Mm-hmm.
Colombia, Venezuela, Ecuador, I believe, even the Dominican
Mm-hmm.
Republic, they're all based on the initial Haitian flag. And
Yeah.
so when you talk about Haiti and Latin America, they're one and the same. But because of anti-blackness, we do know that you know hasn't always Haiti hasn't always been invited or been
No.
treated as part of the family, and yeah, that's part of it. That's certainly part of it. Even in CARICOM, even in some of the
Mhm.
other black
Mm-hmm.
majority black islands, you'll find that Jamaicans, folks from Barbados, Mia Motley, I think, has just been absolutely just disappointing.
Yeah.
Willing to
We can call out Keith Rowley in Trinidad too if you
Keith,
want, you know?
yeah, it's just completely disappointed. So a lot of it is anti Haitian sentiment. Oh, these
Yeah.
folks, they're the most African in Latin America. They practice voodoo. They speak a weird language. They brought this on themselves.
Mm.
But the other part is trauma. Like, we are
For
tra
real.
we, I mean, you saw what they did to Grenada. Like, we bombed Grenada. You think Trinidad wants to stick its neck out? They can't. They're terrified.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
terrified. And then I think the other part is the folks, so the governments in Latin America definitely have been co-opted. And sure, there are anti-black sentiments, but for the most part, most folks in Latin America are also dealing with their own form of oppression. Jamaica is dealing with its own paramilitary issue right now. I believe they're the second poorest in the Caribbean. The Dominican Republic sure has all this infrastructure that it's got a lot from illegal Haitian migrants, but 90% of their investments are not owned
Mm-hmm.
domestically. They're all foreign entities that are buying their property, buying their land. These people are also struggling. So,
Mm-hmm.
if they're struggling, a lot of folks feel like, well, we can't get a control of our government. So
Yeah.
how can we get anything done? And that's why I really think it's really up to the diaspora,
Yeah.
the
Mm.
Caribbean diaspora, the Latin American diaspora, to really put that pressure on our government here in the United States so that the folks in the Caribbean and Latin America can actually make their own decisions. Because if they were left to their own devices, this would not be happening.
Yeah. Marvin, we gotta have you. I mean, you're from Lynn, so I feel like y'all know the Colombians in like Eastie and oh man, in Revere. I was like Brink. I wanted to say Riverside. Now that I'm in California, the R near me is Riverside, not Revere. Um, but I we need to link up like I just remember when the protests were happening in Colombia a couple of years ago, like we had people with Palestinian flags fighting for Colombian rights. We had people with like, Haitian flags, Dominican flags. Like, what does it look like? In Boston, there's like a huge, I'm just thinking of the group that I used to be a part of. It was called Colombianas New England. And it came out of a lot of the organizing that was happening when there were uprisings in Colombia. And I'm like, what does it look like to link up the Colombian and the Haitian diaspora in Boston and like do a protest at the scale of it doesn't even like at the scale that the Colombian protests were. We were all literally just at Government Center. There were like 15 of us, but people were stopping and they were listening and they were like, oh, what is going on? So I'm like, Marvin, is there some collaboration we can do here? Like, what does the Haitian diaspora look like in Massachusetts, actually? Like, is it
Yeah,
tight
yeah.
knit? What is the community like?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're kind of trying to figure out right now. There's the Haitian American Voters Coalition that's really trying to rev up through some political education. Black Alliance for Peace, myself and Mikkel, trying to launch
Hmm.
this 11th Department thing. So that's what we're kind of figuring out right now. In Lynn, the Haitian community, for the most part, is pretty tight knit. In Boston, Randolph, Brockton, so there's
Mm,
pockets. It's just the difficulty is activating them. I think a lot of folks
Hmm.
just don't know what to do.
yeah.
And then also, again, just the trauma piece. You look at voting here in this country. If you're leaving war-torn country or a country where you weren't able to express yourself, well, you're going to come here and you're going to stick to yourself as well. You're scared about the process. You're scared about calling into your representative's office. So it's going to take a little bit of work to just kind of model what civic engagement looks like for our people. But
Yeah.
in Massachusetts, there's about 86,000 of us.
Ooh.
And that doesn't necessarily count folks who are allies or of Haitian descent, either by 2 or 3 generations. So I always tell Haitians here, like, we're the new Irish. That's what I tell them. Like,
Yeah.
we need to get organized and submit ourselves here in Massachusetts and in the states where we have a
Yes.
sizable presence. But yeah, so there's a lot of opportunity for that. There's a lot of Colombians here in Lynn. I actually organized with a few as well. We've been
Mm,
talking about that, but I think the
good.
difficulty is just trying to,
Bring it all
scale that up.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like the two hot
Yeah.
zones are like Mattapan and Lynn in terms of like Haitian
Yeah.
community. And yeah, I think that there's
Rhode
a lot of
Island too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rhode Island definitely does. And I think that there's
Mm,
like definitely an opportunity, not just with like Colombians, but also like there needs to be some unification amongst Haitians and Dominicans. Like that needs to be one
yeah.
big barrier that's brought down. I remember Marvin, I hope you're okay with me sharing the story, but I remember Dominicans coming at yo ass, bro, when we were in high
hmm
school. And then like
hmm
on some like really, really ignorant, like
hmm
messed up shit. And I
hmm
hope those people are good. I hope they're in good spirits. I hope that they've progressed since then. But back at that time, bro, it was like it was hard for me to like watch and see, and it's real. It's like ingrained in the young people. And then when you look at Dominicans' policies against Haitians right now, it's just like y'all are black. like
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you're not white
Woo.
nationalist Christians, right? Like let's just get it out the way. Like you aren't that. They will sell you down river as soon as you come to the US. So like maybe align a
Yeah.
little bit better. So I feel like Dominicans and Haitians definitely have a lot of work to do. But then I think beyond that, then the bands of
Yeah.
influence, I think, of like how do we break down these barriers, I think comes after that. So it's a really good point, Kato, and I think
Yeah.
definitely some
And
opportunities.
just to touch on that, Mikhail, y'all live in New York, so Cultured Company does a lot of
Mm,
work in New York.
Mm,
They're a Haitian and Dominican organization, and they do a lot of work kind of building bridges, dispelling some of the myths. Um, and I think, to their credit, I think they've been pretty effective. I would say when we were younger, yeah, for sure, there was a lot of ignorance. But I would say in recent years, I find that most Dominicans here, especially in the United States, diaspora, that's the key, really.
mm,
They don't subscribe to those. Like, we grew up in community with one another. We're friends. We're dating each other. We're business partners. So that division, I think, it doesn't quite exist in the way that it did. And uh, with what's happening in the context of Haiti and DR, it's really interesting. I always try to tell Dominicans this too. Um, the United States making Haiti, making Haiti's life difficult, making it so that they don't ever reach their potential, actually harms the Dominican economy. It's another way of keeping the Dominican Republic in check. And we know this when you look at our history on the island. There was a lot of cross-cultural collaboration when it came to the dictators. For example, when Dominicans were fighting Trujillo and they needed to regroup or needed to hide, Haitian rebels would hide them in Haiti. And when
mm,
Haitian rebels were fighting Papa Dog and needed to hide, they would go to the Dominican Republic.
mm,
And again, they need to cause that division. Both of
mhm.
those dictators were being funded by the United States. So this anti-Haitian sentiment was essentially funded by Washington. That is not allegedly, that is a fact. so it's all on purpose, and yeah, you're 100% correct. But there's also I see a lot of Dominicans kind of doing the work right now too. I was actually in DR for
Mm,
I was in DR for 11 days. I stayed with some friends, and I was really shocked to see. It was the first time in the Dominican Republic. I was really shocked to see how similar we were, and also how many of the people just weren't in agreement with what the government was doing. We always
mm,
have to remember
mm,
that too. A lot of folks are. I mean, I met folks who were married to Haitians, had friends with Haitians, were babysitting Haitians, and felt like they just didn't know what to do to
mm.
stop this. Yeah,
yeah.
Yeah. Ooh, diaspora babies. I feel like there's like a big call here
yeah,
for
Yeah.
all of us. Just to share one really quick thought, before moving on. Yeah, there's so much there. There's so much richness. You know what? I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna sit on that thought because yeah, I don't know. I just think so much about like a traumatized community. Like we talk about diaspora babies, but we're also talking about highly traumatized people that just escaped
Mhm.
like insanely difficult situations that like I think many of us quite literally cannot imagine.
Mhm.
And just to say one of the places that we had started with the Colombian community is doing a lot of like I think we talked about this in the Sudan episode too, like doing art around trauma and like how do you, yeah, I I'm really looking forward to like being in solidarity with the Haitian community as y'all sort of as like our communities try to learn from each other and figure out like, oh my God, like how do we organize? But like how do we first of all like yeah organize ourselves together to put pressure but at the same time how do we do that when we're like coming from this place of hurt and coming from this place of displacement and being ripped out of our homes so I'm wondering if you've had any thoughts about like what is a good way to begin conversation in your community or how are you mentioned that y'all are sort of working on some of those efforts right now like what are you looking to do? I know that you were saying mobilizing a voting constituency, but obviously, what does that look like right now when Haiti has no government? Like, what do people organize around in this moment? So, if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the things that y'all are sort of thinking about, or what have you personally thought about as a baby of the diaspora?
Yeah. So one of the things we started last year, and I actually started this with a Colombian comrade of mine. We started this Afro diaspora
Mm,
sort of conversation, and we had a facilitator. We had Haitian leaders, Dominican leaders, Colombian leaders kind of get together. And obviously, it was a Black diaspora conversation, but because of Lynn, we've really focused a lot on Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And we thought that we saw that we're still kind of fleshing it out, but that was fruitful.
mm,
One of the things I really been thinking about is like part of the work is just getting people together. Like you don't really need to tell people what to do. It's just like, hey, I got some
mhm.
food. Like, let's come to the park. Like,
Literally.
let's yeah, like literally. So first and foremost is that is building community, and building community doesn't necessarily look like reading a book or giving a lecture. It just maybe just sitting down together more and more, and that's been fruitful. The political piece takes a little bit more work. That's political education. So building people's confidence to actually participate. Like we know, like for example, through our organizing efforts in Lynn, like you you can't get traumatized people to go to City Hall, like or like say they don't agree with something. Um, but really, I would say in a nutshell, is just bringing people together. Like
Yeah.
even if it's just 4 or 5 people, and you just keep that consistent.
Yeah.
And I would also just note like I think the getting back into the agriculture bag, me and Marvin have been kind of working together to figure out that. I think it's something that we need in the Caribbean in general. Is kind of like a self-determination that's via our ability to feed ourselves because so much of the neocolonialism that we see is through processed food, is through import export businesses, is through this like capture of our dollars being moved outside of our own countries. There's no circularity of economy. I think it was something like in Jamaica, for instance, it's like for every dollar, like $11 goes out or something. Like they did some kind of research or statistic around that. I don't quote me on it. And then we've been working on the script too, Marvin. I don't know if you want to share anything about that and like maybe that could be an example for folks to use their political power.
Yeah, so one of the things I did last year when I went to Haiti, it was mostly to figure out what was going on in my mom's town. My mom is from this town outside of Jacmel, beautiful mountain town, 2,800 feet in the air, just beautiful views. Um,
Mm,
and the farmers there were having difficulty with growing their crops. They said that there was this mysterious disease that was killing the trees, and they didn't know what it was. So I flew down there at my uncle's request, level 4 threat warning. Um, I spent 2 days in Port-au-Prince. We'll talk about Port-au-Prince later, but while in Haiti, that's when I figured out that the local town government isn't being funded. The mayor is essentially working for free. The mayor of La Vallée de Jacmel, where I was, she funded trash pickup by herself. A lot of yeah, literally by herself. And so I realized that they were spread thin. So working with Mikkel, working with my contacts here in the US, we were able to get a scientist to go to La Vallée with me. And it wasn't that expensive, which was shocking. We got some samples and he figured out pretty quickly that it wasn't a disease. This was a result of global warming because of the hurricanes that have been kind of ravaging the Caribbean. It's brought along this little pest, white coconut scale. It uh, started off with these coconuts. It attaches to the leaves. If you can get them early enough, you can stop the spread. But because Haiti has essentially no infrastructure, it just spread. And so you're on this Caribbean mountain and you're looking at the horizon and the trees are yellow, green, orange, something like you would see in the fall in Vermont. And you're like, that's not supposed to happen here. And so we started this project. We reached out to the Rotary Club here in Salem, Massachusetts, and the one in Jacmel. They're kind of in this talks with each other right now to figure out how we're going to work this out. But we wrote a project where we're going to teach the farmers how to make natural pesticide to take care of, to get rid of these little pests. Starting a tree nursery to get more strain resistant trees to the region. And then from there, if we can get these folks right up to figuring out how to help them sell their products so that they're not dependent on each other. And then while there, sorry, they're not dependent on the Dominican Republic for food right now, which is a big, it's a major issue and kind of like a cause for division amongst the folks on the island. But while I was also there, we saw a need for communications and kind of technological infrastructure. So Haitians in Tech, this organization that works with young tech folks, is building us a website so that we can actually put the project on the website, have people donate, fund, and really focus on revitalizing the agriculture.
Nice. Y'all gotta share that. That's such a
Yeah.
cool project.
Yeah, and shout out to Mikkel for real. I've been bugging him for months, and he's been so helpful, just kind of getting everything structured.
Mikkel's the best. How do you make time for all of this, Mikkel? I didn't even know you were supporting. That's so amazing.
Always got time for the diaspora, the brethren.
Yes.
Um, yeah, no, I really do love that project mostly because I think it gets at a lot of the root causes of why folks struggle in the Caribbean, and it helps us kind of build for ourselves. And I know that the bigger problem is like when that becomes a problem for those that do not want us to have our own food. Um, kind of taking a bit of a directional shift. I did want to share one of the stories from when I was obviously like when I was in Port-au-Prince, like I already shared about the infrastructure and kind of, watching how quickly things mobilize when there's like a UN related thing that happens. I feel like when I was there in Port-au-Prince, it was the day that the Bolivian president was visiting and all of Port-au-Prince was very safe. And you can imagine how many UN forces were out then, which was different than the other days that I was there where I did not feel as safe. And then we went to Cap Haitien up north. And again, I cannot stress how beautiful Haiti is. Like the waters are so beautiful. The northern coast is like just if it wasn't in the state that it was in, and also if they didn't try to mess it up so much. Like I feel like they being like, outside forces, I think it would just be like a very beautiful place to live. But all that to be said, we went to Labadie, which is a very famous place because it was a place that was marketed for a very long time by Royal Caribbean as an uninhabited island. And they marketed this out. They sold, white vacationers on this idea that you're going to this tropical, uninhabited place that Royal Caribbean found. And you can actually look this up. It was a case. Royal Caribbean was sued for this, and then basically were forced to name that the place that they had been taking these people to all these years was actually Haiti, and everyone was in shock. And they were like, "I've been going to Haiti this whole time for this like vacation, these beautiful waters." And the more insidious thing about this is not just that they lied about it being in Haiti. There was probably massive amounts of like attention and tourism and money that could have flowed to the Haitian community if folks had been properly marketed that Haiti is a beautiful country. But they got a 99-year lease for $1 under the Papa Doc administration for this area. And they built a giant concrete like docking, like dock or port, where these giant cruise ships come in. They built a huge facility around there. When we went there, it was razor wire fence, trench, razor wire fence, concrete wall. And they had jet skis that were out of commission because some white guest had probably hurt themselves. And so then they had to take out these jet skis. And there's a literal fishing village right next door where folks have painted their houses these beautiful colors because they don't want to be looked down at. There was a guy there that spoke 6 different languages, but they refused to hire him because he was from the local village. So it's like all these like really insidious things. And I tell this story because it was one of those moments where I had been confronted with all these lies I had been told about a country so like just intensely. Like it was actually like one of the more intense moments of realization where I was just like, man, so they lie about the place, they border it up, they build these resort towns, and then on top of that, the local fishing village has no access to the thousands of jobs that are created by this area. And they're bringing in people from outside of Haiti to work on these cruise ships, to work at these resorts, to work inside these facilities. And all of this goes back to this like really dirty deal with Papa Doc, and in which Royal Caribbean still benefits from because Papa Doc was only in like the 60s or 70s, so they have it for another 50 years. So that is my incendiary story about being in Haiti. But I also will say that if you get a chance to have legume, is it legume or legume?
Legume.
Legume. That shit
Legume.
slaps, dude. That shit
Yeah.
slaps. It's my favorite. I don't think
It's
I
like
can have it anymore because it's pork, but it's really good.
well, you can make veggie. It's like Haitian collard greens. If you've ever had collard greens, it's similar to that.
Yeah, it's bomb.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Wow, I
that
did
was
not know all.
yeah, it's crazy.
We need
You-
to do a part 2
I feel like
where
you
we
could
just
do
talk
like
about that.
we could or crazy idea. Marvin starts a podcast where he talks about all of that.
I would listen to that. So tell us
But
more.
before we get into the podcast though, I just want to see if there's any last questions, and then we'll do like a nice little close, share more about the podcast, and bully Marvin into starting a podcast. Any questions, Eric?
I think the only question I've had is going back to your intro, Mikkel, a little bit about how you guys have known each other for over a decade, and there's like stories that like you wouldn't share and like just like ridiculous stuff. I just can't not mention how hilarious of a human being Marvin is. And so like to have this like really like really beautiful but intense conversation, I think it speaks a lot to like what how much you can hold. But just wanted to just like uplift that you are like one of the funniest people I've ever met. And just like the few times that we've hung out before have been like burned into my memory because of their ridiculousness. Which we won't get into, but I did just want to ask, like, as someone who I think can balance both a lot of what's hard in the world, but also find like the good in humor and just like I think generally, like I said, hilarious human being. I'm wondering just if you could share a little bit more. You briefly touched on it, but like your experience going to Haiti, like what is like what do you take away from there that like you absolutely love about the place? Like we hear so much about the negative, and just knowing that even in the negative that there is a lot of positivity and hope. Um, just like when you like visualize yourself being there, like what is it that like you remember and like
Yeah.
want more of?
Honestly, it was my biggest takeaway being in the countryside, especially, was that Haiti has quite a bit. Like we have trees. Like I don't know where this this narrative came. Oh, Haiti has no. We got trees. We got more trees than Ireland. And which is
Ireland
true.
has no trees, just
I
to
love
say.
Yeah,
that.
Like,
yeah. Like
that's-
what?
yeah.
No, but Haiti's so beautiful. It's the most mountainous nation in the Caribbean, and a lot of people don't realize that. Like Haiti's a hiker's paradise. I loved just waking up in the morning, being on a mountain, cool breeze, farming with my with my loved ones. It was amazing, and while I was there, despite the threats and the warnings not to go, I found a lot of Americans, folks who had gone to Haiti in 2010 after the earthquake and just stayed because they fell in love with it. And a lot of young Haitian entrepreneurs, there were young people building go-karts out of scrap metal. And I'm like, guys, like, start a business. Like, there were people, uh, there were so many innovators. Haiti, the potential for Haiti is so high, and I really wish people knew that more. That outside of Port-au-Prince, there's a vibrant nation with lots of opportunities to work with young people and really make Haiti a shining example of what a Caribbean state can and should be. You know, and yeah, that's what I really want to take away.
Hmm.
Thank you. Love that.
I don't even want to ask a question because that was just really good. What you just said, Marvin. But
Thanks.
I'll save any other questions for another time. Thank you so much for your time. It's so cool to have, like Eric said, like a conversation like this with you. I think the part that I think when we've met, it's probably been more like a party setting. So it's cool to like
Yeah.
get to know you in this way. So thank you so much. I feel like I just saw so much resonance, and I know that a lot of other listeners that have similar backgrounds to us that are part of a larger community outside of the US. It's just a lot of things in your story were very resonant, and can't wait to hear about the podcast, and can't wait to have you on again to continue the conversation because I thought it was just there was a lot of richness, and I can't wait to I'm like we gotta figure all this out. I think so much about Venezuela too, and Haiti, and all of these places that are so beautiful that I would love to be able to share with friends that are from there. And I know like bringing people to Colombia brings me so much joy. So I hope that we can maybe
Yeah.
a couple years from now look forward and be like, oh my gosh, we can now come and see this gorgeous place and get to experience that. So thank you, Marvin. This was a really awesome conversation.
No, thank y'all for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Kato and Eric, for really good and engaging questions, and thank you, Marvin, for joining us. Before we wrap, I had a couple things to kind of touch on. The first thing that I did want to say is yes, we should definitely have a trip to Haiti when the time is right. Think that would be beautiful. I feel like it would be super dope and kind of similar to Mexico. I feel like it would shatter a lot of our own ingrained assumptions from the propaganda of Western countries. Two, CARICOM is shit. I hope this doesn't bar me from getting future jobs at CARICOM. I would love to be part of improving CARICOM, but honestly, like the only reason CARICOM exists is because it helps enable this idea that democracy and a governed, managed democracy is the only way to help these uncivilized brown people. And for me, I don't think CARICOM goes far enough. And there's like the reparations committee, which I think is like the one saving grace of CARICOM, but every other instance of CARICOM has been actually just the most minimal activity on like every issue. Um, and the last thing that I'd say is please keep an eye on the elites of Haiti. They are a very secretive bunch. They are these very, what we would call high colored, light skinned folks. that live in the mountains and have been observing and overseeing the demise of Haiti for decades and decades. And they live in these communities in America, sitting on the wealth of Haitian people. They control all the raw materials, and that is why Haiti cannot build at a sustainable fashion because they control the lumber, they control the concrete, they control uh, the brick, the glass, the metal, the rebar. Like they're the ones that can control that. And so they benefit when the UN goes and builds and constructs there. They benefit when the US builds their giant ass embassy.
Hmm.
And they're the ones that benefit when Haitian people want to build anything. So keep an eye on the elites. Whenever you see something about an elite person in the US that's from these Haitian descendants, I would say share the shit out of it and make sure that they cannot live comfortably because it's the same thing as the Marcos regime extracting money out of the Philippines. It's the same as um, Barbosa. Is it Barbosa from Dominican Republic? No.
Trujillo, or I don't know.
Trujillo? Yeah, that's probably right. I'm thinking about
Yeah.
someone else, but I can't remember. Maybe it's Cuba. I don't know. But yeah, they're the ones kind of making it impossible. And then I guess the last thing I would say is that me and Eric have been talking to Marvin for at least 2 years about making the dream come true of this 11th Department podcast. And while we've got you on here, one, I want you to share what the concept of the podcast was when we had talked about it. And then two, make a public commitment that we are going to do this podcast.
Yeah, so Haiti has 10 departments. It's made up of 10 departments officially, but unofficially, Haiti has 11 departments. So the diaspora is considered to be a member of the 11th department of Haiti. And so we came up, but the idea was that we would launch this podcast for the diaspora as a way for us to engage with one another, get organized, and just be unapologetic in our advocacy for Haiti. So I sort of did a soft launch on TikTok right now. You can follow us at the 11th Department. And my commitment to you all here is to get this ball rolling. So we're 2 videos down, and we're gonna do some long form interviews and videos on YouTube. So
There we go. Eric, are you happy to hear this news? Kato, are you happy to hear this news?
Oh yeah, can't wait to
I'm
hear
good with
it.
it. Looking forward
Wait,
to
so
editing.
y'all already have a TikTok I'm gonna follow right now.
yeah,
You should.
yeah,
He's got a
yeah,
couple videos up there. He's talking about the little script that we made. So
yeah.
well, that he
Oh,
made, and he had
No, we
me
worked on it. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But it was you, it was you, it was you, it was you, it was you. Now for real, thank you so much, Marvin. Thank you, Eric and Kato,
seriously.
for showing up to such a great conversation. I got nothing but love for you, bro. So I'll catch
Always.
you soon, catch you soon. But until then, please keep on listening, liking, subscribing, sharing out the podcast, and let us know what you think. There's a lot that we unpacked today, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. So thanks for listening to another episode of Upon Request. Peace.
Peace.
Nice.